Welcome to Friends with Fertility, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of fertility, reproductive health, and all the emotional journeys that are in between. I'm your host, Elizabeth King, a fertility expert dedicated to providing you with the knowledge, support, and inspiration you need on your path to parenthood. Whether you're just starting out, exploring your options, or looking for solidarity and advice, we are here for you. Let's embark on this journey together and turn uncertainty into empowerment and make friends with fertility. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are talking with Katie Wood. She is a mom, a pharmacist, integrative fertility coach, and embodied womb practitioner. She helps women nourish their minds, bodies, and spirits for optimal fertility health, empowering them to conceive consciously and confidently with ease. With over a decade of experience as a pharmacist and in alternative modalities, Katie is passionate about educating and guiding women on their fertility journey. She employs gentle guidance and takes a holistic approach, focusing on nutrition, lifestyle, and mind-body connection. Welcome, Katie. Thanks for being here.
Hi, super excited to be here with you.
That's a lot of information. What do you focus most when somebody comes to you who's trying to conceive?
That's a really beautiful question. And I think it really depends on the individual. I have, over the last few years, worked with many different women on many different areas of their journey. So some women come to me, their nutrition is on point, they know their cycle to a T, but their mindset and their belief
Right.
and faith is really, really wavering in needing that additional support. And then I have some women who really need to dial in on their nutrition, really kind of figure out what their cycle is, maybe balance some hormones, especially if they're not ovulating or having ideal cycles, things like that. So that's when we kind of want to let's get those foundations done. And then we're going to dive into the mindset, fertility, energetics, and all of the things. But one thing that I absolutely do with everyone is working on your overall energetics, your mindset, and just bringing that positive energy to the forefront of your fertility journey.
Absolutely. Find for my practice, it's the same, right? I think the majority of people feel like they can Google all the things to lock in what they need to do, but then they're still, whether they're aware of their struggle to the degree of the mindset or not, sometimes that's the thing, right? They think that they got it, right? I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to be doing, but they kind of know that their mindset's not where it should be, but they really have no idea of how far away it really is, just even with their conscious languaging, right? Of what they say and how they operate in the world around their fertility, I feel like gives a lot of energy to which direction they're going. And really, when you have somebody like yourself coaching them through that, it could be quite easy shifts in just having that recognition of somebody trying to help you through that. So, what does that help in the energy work and or the mindset look like for a client that works with you?
Sure, absolutely. And while I was listening to you talking, what immediately came to my mind is we are so good being in our masculine, I feel like, as women,
Right.
almost too good. And so that's where all of this, like you said, going to Google, trying to figure it out on our own, doing, it is being in our feminine, leaning back and being able to trust and receive and surrender. So I think that that is a really, really big piece that I work on
Mhm.
with women is creating that awareness, because a lot of us, like you were mentioning, consciously we don't even realize that we're doing it. And the same goes for me too. When we were struggling to conceive, I'm just very type A, very like, tell me what to do and I'm going to do it 10 times over, right? We don't even realize that we're doing it because
Right.
subconsciously there's a lot of like inner child conditioning underneath there, having to be high achievers to receive love, recognition, acknowledgement, all of those things. So I think the number one thing that I love to really help women is create that internal awareness, that internal dialogue with our bodies, because our bodies are speaking to us. They're trying to communicate with us every single day. And unfortunately, we weren't raised to trust our bodies and to really have that dialogue. And a lot of us have grown up on birth control. I know I was on birth control for 13 years, and that really just shuts off and silences all of our innate feminine functions and our cyclical nature and all of these things. So creating that inner dialogue and like tuning up our intuition and building that trust, because I think that bottom line, no matter what feels aligned for you on your fertility journey, whether it's you want to do fertility treatments, you want to do it so you can conceive naturally, tuning into your intuition and trusting it is going to help get you to your desired results in an aligned way. So, what I like to say that how that could look like is I have a lot of women come to me and they're like, I've done 6 cycles of IUI. They've all failed. My doctor has told me I can do however many more, and then I have to go to IVF, and I just want to jump right into the next cycle. Or they're telling me I have to do it by this certain point because my clock is ticking. I'm running out of time. And it's really when you can sit back and say, okay, my doctor is telling me this, but in my body, I am feeling like some constriction going on. I feel like I need to put this on pause, give my body some time to regulate and just recalibrate after the hormones or whatever it may look like. But a lot of
Mhm.
times we don't trust that constriction or that sensation in our stomach or our throat that's coming up, and we go forward with the
Right.
additional treatment. And then, it's another failed cycle. And then we just shame and blame ourselves. And it's just this really vicious cycle.
I know for me, I don't know about for you, but it was hard to connect to my intuition when I was going through it. I think that's part of what we try so hard to help other people through now is to get out of that noise of the masculine and the doer and connect back with your intuition because I know, same as you. If you told me to sit on my head and turn around 3 times, I would have done that every day for five times a day if that was what was gonna work. And probably like you too, there's a lot of clients that come to me that are type A, and we are so used to, if I do all the things, then I get the result. And unfortunately, with fertility, it's not always that way. So, how do you help people connect back into their intuition when they really don't know what to do? I know for me, it was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I do a round of IVF, if I'm trying another month naturally, then am I going to have another loss because I'm older? And so I didn't really know what to do. I did know though, and I will say, if a doctor is allowing you to do 6 cycles of IUI, stop doing it. Don't do that. And I know a lot of people go that route because they think it's the cheaper route rather than IVF, but I would recommend taking a step back and reevaluating the situation there. But how do you get people to reconnect with their intuition? Because I know when you're in it, it's hard to feel like, what does that even look like? And when I say sometimes the contraction versus expansion, they can't even feel that because they're so in their head of, well, what do I do next steps? Where do I go next? What do I take? Who do I talk to? All that sort of
Mhm.
stuff.
Absolutely. So I think it's also reminding ourselves that this disconnection from self has been going on for probably the majority, if not all of our lives. So giving ourselves space and grace to really cultivate that dialogue and communication with our body, right? We can't learn a new language overnight. So really what I like to remind people is, how can you begin creating intentional space in your day? And of course, we can start low with that and work our way up. So whether it's 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes at night, and you can build on that. And just connecting with your body, being in silence, putting the phone away. If you maybe already have little ones at home and you're trying for more, or if you have a partner, just set some boundaries and speak your needs and your desires. I need some space for myself. I find it's easiest to do before you get out of bed or right before you go to bed, but just creating that intentional space to just be and to not put any pressure on something miraculous to happen, right? Just kind of
Mhm.
being in that quiet space. And the more you do that, the more you're going to be able to pick up on things. But then we also need to anchor in safety within our body because a lot of us do not feel safe in our bodies for various reasons, whether it's traumas from growing up or we just have never had a connection with our bodies. So, kind of telling yourself, I am safe to be in my body, I am safe to feel any emotions as they come up, and just witnessing them. I have a 4 step process that I lead my clients through, and it's really building that awareness. So, even awareness as you're moving throughout your day. Oh, I was scrolling on Facebook and I saw so and so post their pregnancy announcement or their baby shower, or maybe it's just a picture of their new baby. And this is how I felt, right? And even if you just notice it, but then you notice it happens again and again, or maybe you're noticing, like, oh, my husband and I keep arguing about this same thing. And then we want to look at that with open curiosity. We don't want to shame or blame ourselves. We want to neutralize that feeling. And then once you're kind of, you're getting a little bit more comfortable in that space, then we want to decide, like, you know, when I start seeing these things on Facebook, I'm going to decide that I'm happy for her. And the fact that I'm seeing so many announcements right now, that means that that fertile frequency is flowing and it will be my turn. And if it's something that is a really heightened sensation, then what I would do with my clients is bring them through a meditative practice. And we're going to really help kind of alchemize that sensation. And then after, you just integrate it and embody. How am I going to move forward to be in this higher version of myself? Now, I know that that sounds like a lot, but it's really kind of like a step by step process, and just allowing yourself to be in that moment and trust what's coming up. And
Mhm.
just kind of as like another side note that people can do just throughout their day is, when it's like stop and smell the roses, literally slow down. Enjoy your breakfast or your coffee outside in the sun. Feel that sun shining down on your skin. Feel the warmth and just the beautiful brightness around you, the sounds of the birds chirping outside or whatever it may be. Slowing down, creating that presence. The more you do that every day, you're going to build that awareness. It's a muscle, right? We're not going to go to the gym and expect to bench press, 100 pounds like on your first day. It's something that you have to work on. So, that is essentially a few tips that I would suggest to someone.
And I'm smiling as she's talking because there's so many similarities to the messaging that I also work with, because I think it's so important. I also believe that if you're seeing pregnant people around you or birth announcements or whatever, know that that is coming for you next. Change that narrative in your brain around feeling sad about it to being excited. That's just one more closer to you, as well as the feminine energy and all of that. The feminine and the mindset are two of my 4 steps as well. So I think seeing the congruency in all the steps in order to get your mind calm, your nervous system regulated, all of those things, there's no accident that we're on similar wavelengths, right? There's truth to what we're saying as far as how this helps your body to relax into receiving. And when I say receive, that could be whether it's natural and or ART, it's still your body creating and knowing that you have the faith in your own self, and as Katie said, trusting your body to do that. So in trusting your body to do that, I want to talk about womb healing. I think for some people it's a really common practice and thing to talk about, but for others they've never even heard of it. So can you talk about what womb healing is and what that might look like for somebody? I will say it's different for everyone. So what could that look like for a general person?
So, womb healing to me is really being able to heal either the ancestral, collective, or personal wounds and trauma that we are carrying as women, which we hold and store a lot of that trauma in our wombs. So, by being able to do so, we are actually going to restore the flow of energy in our body. We are all energetic beings. We all, even a plant has energy, a rock has energy. Everything on this earth is made of energy. And when we're carrying these wounds and these traumas, they are going to create a distortion of flow. If you kind of think of like a big boulder in a river, the water is going to go around that boulder. It's not going to be a really smooth flow. So by being able to alchemize these, which essentially means like dissolve, resolve, integrate these wounds and these traumas, you are restoring the flow of your fertile life force energy, which is going to allow you to, tap into your intuition, be fertile, right? Our wombs are our center of creativity, which isn't just creating life, but expressing ourselves, like whether it's through art, music, like whatever, dance, whatever that means to you. And I think, just kind of like a side tangent, if you are someone as a child or growing up that really enjoyed maybe a certain hobby or something like that, and perhaps you've gotten out of the habit of doing that, get back into that. Do you enjoy writing, singing, dancing, whatever it is? Find something that makes you feel joy, happiness, where you can express yourself. And so by doing, basically the four-step process that I just kind of walked you through, but then also certain meditative practices, we're able to a be in our body. That is like step number one, is helping women even be able to reside in their body. And then B, being able to be in our wombs. A lot of times it's actually hard for us to access our wombs because it's very blocked off, whether it's from our trauma or birth control use. It can be a little bit harder to access that. So being able to ease into that, and we can heal the masculine, heal the feminine, and really just be able to step into the highest version of ourselves by doing this. And we're healing our ancestral lineage and really alchemizing and resolving these traumas so they will not be passed on to future generations.
And I had done a womb healing prior to I had done it many, many years ago, even before I had any intention in having children. And then again, when I was going through the process, and then again after, knowing that I wasn't going to have any more children. And each time different things came up for myself and or ancestral. And so the reason I say this is because sometimes you don't recognize, or someone may say, "Oh, I don't have any family history that I know of. Nobody had any sexual trauma, nobody had any problems with childbirth or pregnancy or whatever, the obvious things, so to speak." But I'll just mention there's a lot of energy ancestrally from the collective that you may not even be aware of that lives in your DNA. So when you do this type of healing, you're kind of also doing it for a blanket statement of anybody and anything that needs the healing, male or female, right? We're talking about womb healing, but also from a male perspective, because you're bringing in the male energy into your system with a sperm, right? Whether that's from ART or naturally. So I think I just want to say that for anybody that is interested in working with you around this, because you don't have to be overtly aware of your own trauma or someone else's trauma in order to have a womb healing. Because I feel like that word feels like, I know I have an open sore and I need to fix it. It doesn't need to be so obvious. It can also be from an energetic perspective. Do you have anything to mention about that? Your experience?
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Speaking from my own experience of doing womb healing sessions, this is kind of where that trust muscle and factor comes in is a lot of times we want to do things right. I know
Mhm.
I can speak from personal experience, right? I don't want to do something wrong. So that's a really big piece in this is there's no right or wrong in trusting that whatever is coming up for you or whatever is being shown to you is there for a reason. So like you said, maybe you don't recognize something because perhaps it's not yours, perhaps it's from an ancestor, but just trusting that it's coming up for a reason and just knowing that there's no right or wrong. But for example, one of my clients, she had shared with me that a lot of the women in her maternal line have had trouble conceiving and
Mhm.
carrying pregnancies. And she actually has a partially septic
Right.
uterus. So basically, there's some,
Mhm.
growing in the center of her uterus. And if you think about it, that something happened along her maternal lineage that created it, some difficulties around conceiving and carrying a pregnancy. And if you think about it, generations down the line, it's almost like her uterus is doing like a self protection by creating this septum in her uterus. Why is that there? So, whether it's famine, war, there are so many different things that our ancestors had to endure for you to be here to this day on this earth that we live on currently. And like you said, it does absolutely include the masculine energy too. So even just thinking of the men and what they have had to endure to really ensure the safety and the
Mhm.
survival of their families. So there's so much that can come up for this. And I know it might be hard for some people who are maybe very much in their logical mind, which that totally used to be me, to because this is untangible, right? We can't
Right.
necessarily like see it in a study or on paper or whatever it is, but right, we whether you believed in Santa when you were a kid or if you're religious, you believe in that higher power, but you don't
Mhm.
necessarily see them, right? Or whatever that may be for you. So it's just again having that trust. And for me, I come from the Western medicine space. I'm a pharmacist. That's my background. And a lot of people question, like, how can you be a
Mhm.
holistic fertility coach? You're a pharmacist. And it's like, yeah, well, I have grown and evolved as a person. And when I first began fertility coaching, I focused on all of the practical strategies with my clients: nutrition, cycle tracking, stress management. But then
Right.
sometimes that wasn't enough, so to say. They were still struggling to get pregnant. And so I knew deep in like the bones of my body that there is something more that is wanting to come to the surface for me to be able to help women do. And that is womb healing, connecting back to our higher selves, our intuition, reclaiming our power as women. So if you're someone who's maybe a little skeptical about womb healing because it's new to you and it's just a little hard to grasp, but maybe you're curious, just kind of going with that curiosity and being open to the
For sure.
possibilities for
And
your
I know,
fertility.
again, for myself, when I was going through trying to get pregnant, I was open to everything, right? If somebody's, like I said, if someone told me to do something or try this or that, it really became the quest of how can I do and meet with all the people that potentially could have an opening for me of what this is going to be the game changer. Right? Whether it was an energetic healer or whether it was even some supplement that I hadn't used before. Or now for me, I feel like most of the time I'm taking people off supplements because they're over supplementing themselves. But just, I think that is the bottom line. Stay open and curious to anything and anyone that can come along your path when you're trying to conceive and make friends with your body in this process instead of working against each other, because that's very easy to fall into that trap when you're on the journey and it's not working and you get 2, 3, 4 months down the line with no pregnancy and you start to not be very kind to yourself. And we really want to bring that back together. So how can everyone work with you and find you and follow you?
Sure. I'm very active on Instagram. You can find me at the_wellness_pharmacist. You can also head to my website, happynourishedmotherhood.com. Happy to chat with anyone. I have a few freebies that I could help direct you to depending on where you are in your journey. And I also have a podcast, Rising into Mindful Motherhood. So love to have you over there. And actually, you should probably be a guest as well, Elizabeth. So that would be fun.
I would love that. Thanks, Katie. I imagine that your background in pharmacy work helps you tremendously as well to understand what people have been on and how that integrates with their body
Yes,
and
I
everything.
like to say that I marry the conventional and the energetic functional space for fertility because I have my feet in kind of both spaces.
That's awesome because I always say to people, as much as I had my children naturally and everything, I do feel and have seen there are places where we do need the Western type situation to come into play. And that's where it's, I'm sure, like I said, very helpful to understand medications and how they interact with your body and how they interact with your fertility and all of those things. So that also is such a great knowledge for you to have and very helpful for your clients, I'm sure, because it's crazy to say how many people are on some sort of medication. There's very few people in the world walking around these days that actually are not on anything. And I think part of that is having the belief that you don't need to be. I know that was the case for me many years ago when a doctor had said, you need to be on this, this, and this. And I was like, I don't think so. And went back a few months later to do my blood work again. And I was able to sort that out myself. And I think having somebody to encourage you through that and who understands what the medication is doing for your body is also really helpful. So if you're listening and you are on some sort of medication, maybe talk to Katie about perhaps figuring out what's going on with your body and how you can work with your mindset and everything else to help heal your body in a different way.
Absolutely. And just to kind of speak to that very quickly, that's actually a huge reason I felt unaligned in pharmacy because we're not helping people get better by putting some
Right.
medications are necessary, but a lot of times they're kind of just band-aid
Right.
situations. And there's so many things that we can do to get ourselves back to into harmony and vitality and wellness. So yeah,
Right.
I definitely strive for that for my clients.
Even when you were talking about the birth control, I can't even imagine as a pharmacist how many times you guys see birth control prescriptions going out the door and people think, oh, well, it's hormone or it's non-hormonal or whatever. It's still interrupting your natural way of being and you're shutting off and telling your body don't function this way, only to hope it functions when you want it to. So um, yeah, that's a whole nother topic we can go down someday. Well, thank you for being here, Katie. I really appreciate your time and everyone take a look at all she does and be open and curious to maybe this is another avenue for you to help get to your next step of becoming a mama.
Yes, thanks for having me. It was a great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Friends with Fertility. We hope that you found the stories, insights, and tips as inspiring and informative as we did. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. Your friends with fertility are here for you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and more fertility resources. Until next time, stay hopeful and keep believing in your journey, and know that we are sending you lots of love.